Ladies and gentlemen, they won't believe it at first. They'll say it's too sudden, too unexpected, like you appeared out of nowhere. But what they call sudden, heaven calls scheduled. And what they think is your moment of arrival is actually the moment God has been preparing all along. Chosen one, the hour has come not by chance, not by force, but by divine revelation. And it's happening now. Divine timing is often misunderstood because we, as humans, live under the tyranny of the clock. Seconds pass, hours drag, days vanish, and in that ticking we presume that delays are denials, that silence is indifference. Yet the truth, though hard to accept, is this: God is never late. What feels like postponement to us is often preparation in the realm of heaven. The exact hour of your rise was never random, nor reactive. It was etched into the eternal script long before you were born. The human heart tends to measure value by visibility. When we see nothing moving, when our prayers seem to dissolve into empty air, we grow anxious. We think, maybe I missed it. Maybe I failed. Maybe I'm not the one after all. But that is the flaw in our perception. We assume that purpose must always be loud, that calling must always be obvious, and that preparation must come with announcement. Yet the most divine moments are often hidden, like seeds buried in the soil, unseen but not forgotten. What grows beneath the surface does not deny the sun, it waits for its appointed hour to reach it. God's timing is not based on your feelings. It is not even shaped by your environment. It is governed by your development. What we call a delay is often a pause made mercifully by heaven to ensure that when you rise you do not fall. We are so eager to step into greatness that we forget greatness without grounding becomes destruction. The rise of the chosen one is not just about outward achievement but inward readiness. A tree with shallow roots can bear fruit, yes, but only for a season. Then the storm comes, and it is gone. That is why the hour of your rising was hidden from you, not because you were unworthy, but because God was shaping you into someone who could carry the weight of the calling. If He had revealed the moment too soon, you might have tried to force it. You might have run ahead, only to find yourself unequipped, unprotected, and unanchored. Divine timing is not God withholding from you. It is God shielding you both from premature exposure and from your own impatience. Consider how the seasons work. Spring does not beg to arrive, it simply comes when the earth is ready. The soil must rest through winter, the trees must lose their leaves. It is not punishment, it is rhythm. And so it is with your rise. It comes not when you shout loudest or work hardest, but when the timing aligns with what God has already seen in eternity. You may think your time has passed because others are rising around you, but you are not in their season. You are in yours. And yours has not been overlooked, it has been reserved. Even when nothing made sense, God was not absent from your journey. Every detour, every delay, every closed door was part of the same design. When heaven writes a story, it uses shadows as well as light. Your wilderness was part of your wisdom. Your silence was part of your strength. And your patience has prepared the platform on which your purpose will now stand. So when we say God just revealed the exact hour of your rise, we do not mean He just decided it. No, He has only now let you see what He always knew. It is not a new plan. It is an old promise made visible. You were never waiting on the moment. The moment was waiting on you. On your maturity, on your clarity, on your surrender. And now that you have been made ready, what once felt hidden will unfold with divine precision. This is not fate. This is not luck. This is alignment. And alignment is far greater than ambition. Alignment means the doors open because you are supposed to walk through them, not because you pushed hard enough, but because heaven turned the handle. So remember, divine timing is not delayed. It is simply different. Different from your plans, yes, but better, wiser, safer, and more enduring. You were never ordinary, only unawakened. That is the truth you must grasp before you can fully embrace the moment of your rise. The idea that you were just like everyone else, that your story was meant to blur quietly into the background, was never more than a fog that clouded your vision. It was never reality. You were set apart from the beginning, not because you earned it, not because you fought for it, but because purpose was woven into your being before you ever had the language to describe it. But purpose, when hidden, often feels like nothing at all. You wake up and go through the motions. You speak, but your words feel empty. You serve, but your actions seem unseen. And over time, if you are not careful, you begin to believe the lie that your life lacks meaning. Yet the truth is that you were never living without purpose, you were simply living without awareness. The seed was always there. It just hadn't broken the surface yet. What makes a person chosen is not a sudden bestowal of power or blessing. It is a gradual uncovering of what was always present, but buried beneath layers of fear, distraction, rejection, and misunderstanding. To be chosen is not to be picked out of a crowd for the first time. It is to realize you were never part of the crowd in the way you thought. It is the painful, glorious moment when you recognize that the isolation you hated was actually protection, and the longing you felt was actually calling. Your difference has always been your signature, not your flaw. Those moments when you could not explain why you thought differently, why you felt more deeply, why you saw things others ignored, those were the early tremors of your awakening. But before the rise comes the confusion. Before the voice is heard, there is silence. And before you step into the light, you often walk through the night not knowing who you are or why you feel so heavy with invisible weight. There is a reason why you were misunderstood. There is a reason why people underestimated you. You were hidden. Not from harm, but for purpose. And while you were hidden, things were growing in you that no one else could see. Wisdom was taking root. Character was being refined. Discernment was being sharpened. All the while, you carried something sacred in silence. Something heaven refused to let the world exploit before it was ready. You may have looked ordinary on the outside. Your life may have looked like failure. There may have been no recognition, no signs, no prophetic words loud enough to drown out your doubts. But what you carried within you was never small. It was simply not awakened yet. Just like a caterpillar does not resemble the wings it will one day bear, you did not resemble your future while you were still cocooned in process. The world may not have applauded you, but heaven was watching every quiet step. Being chosen is not always glamorous. It is often a lonely process filled with internal struggle. There are days when you question everything, when nothing around you affirms what you feel inside. And yet, something deep in your soul won't let go of the sense that you are meant for more. That restlessness, that ache, that strange sense of waiting for something unnamed, it is the mark of the chosen who have not yet awakened. You were never unworthy. You were never less than. You were simply becoming. And becoming is slow, mysterious work. It cannot be rushed. It does not always make sense. But it is always moving you closer to the hour of your unveiling. The world may say you came out of nowhere, but God knows exactly where you've been. You've been in process, you've been in training, you've been in the shadows, learning how to stand so you will not fall when the light finally finds you. So now that the awakening has begun, you must see yourself rightly, not with arrogance, but with reverence, not as one above others, but as one entrusted with something holy. The chosen are not those who seek attention, they are those who carry responsibility. You are not rising to prove yourself. You are rising because the time has come to reveal what has been growing inside you all along. You were never ordinary. You were only waiting to wake up. The hour is a mirror. It does not create who you are. It reflects what has already been formed in silence, in secret, in struggle. Many people misunderstand the significance of the moment of elevation. They believe that when their time comes, when doors open, when the world takes notice, when the stage is finally theirs, that somehow they will become something greater than they were before. But that is a dangerous illusion. The moment does not shape you. It reveals you. This is why some people rise quickly and fall even faster. They mistake the opportunity for transformation. They think the light will change them. But the truth is that the light only exposes what was always there, hidden under layers of obscurity, guarded by divine timing. The spotlight does not purify, it magnifies. And if you enter that light without the substance to carry it, it will burn you instead of lift you. You must understand that the hour of your rise was never meant to be a gift you stumble into unprepared. It is a mirror held up to your soul, showing you not only what you have become, but also what you have been carrying in your quiet hours, the motives you never voiced, the strengths you didn't know were being shaped, the fractures you never allowed to heal. When the appointed time comes, nothing will be hidden. The mask falls away, the excuses melt, and the real substance of your being stands on display. This is why the preparation was so long. Not because God was withholding your moment, but because He was refining your reflection. He was not building a future for you to enter, He was building you to be ready for the future. Every delay, every disappointment, every silence was not against you. It was building the character that your calling would one day require. The hour doesn't give you identity, it confirms it. It shows you the outcome of the work done in unseen places. Imagine a mirror that had been covered for years, dust gathered, its edges blurred. But then, one day, it is unveiled. Light hits it, and suddenly it reflects everything in sharp clarity. That is what the moment of rising is like for the chosen one. It is not new. It is not random. It is a reflection of who you've become in the hidden years. If you were faithful when no one watched, the mirror will reflect faithfulness. If you nurtured wisdom in silence, the mirror will show depth. But if you spent those years chasing noise or feeding ego, that too will be seen. The hour will not lie. It will only reflect. This is not meant to frighten you, but to sober you. The world will say, "Your time has come," and many will cheer. But only you and heaven will know what that time reveals. And if you have walked with integrity, if you have built with truth, if you have bowed in secret prayers and sacrificed without recognition, then what you see in that mirror will not shame you, it will strengthen you. Because you will know you didn't rise by accident. You were made for it. The danger comes when people think the hour grants them what they have not earned in the shadows. They mistake visibility for victory. But the chosen one knows better. They know that rising is not the beginning, it is the unveiling. It is the moment when the inner and the outer finally align, when the weight of your hidden self becomes visible to the world. And it is then that the world either bows to the authenticity you've carried or exposes the illusion you've pretended to live. So when your time comes, and it will, you must look into that mirror with courage. Do not flinch, do not doubt. Recognize the face staring back at you. It is the face of one who has been through fire, through silence, through storms, and still stands. The hour has not made you. It has merely shown the world who you already are. God reveals purpose when obedience is proven in the dark. This is one of the most difficult truths for the human heart to accept, because we naturally long for clarity before commitment. We want to see the full map before we take the first step. We crave assurance that the journey will be worth it. But heaven does not operate according to human preference. God waits for obedience not in the light of certainty, but in the shadows of uncertainty. The revelation of purpose is not a prize for those who wait passively. It is a response to those who walk faithfully even when nothing makes sense. It is in the darkness that your trust is tested, not the kind of trust that is loud or emotional, but the quiet kind, the trust that chooses to stay the course when there's no audience, no affirmation, and no visible progress. This is where God watches most closely. Not in your performance when the world is watching, but in your posture when it's just you, your confusion, and your decision to keep walking. The darkness is not punishment, it is a proving ground. It is where God looks to see not how gifted you are, but how surrendered you are. The ones who are entrusted with purpose are not always the most talented or the most charismatic. They are often the ones who simply refused to stop obeying when everything in them wanted to quit. They chose obedience not because they had guarantees, but because they had convictions. They chose faithfulness over fame, process over platform, surrender over shortcuts. And in time, heaven responded not with applause, but with clarity. Purpose is not given to those who demand it. It is revealed to those who are ready to carry it without corrupting it. God hides purpose until obedience has reached a certain depth, because purpose is powerful and power in untested hands becomes poison. A calling that is not anchored in obedience will eventually become a tool for self-glory or manipulation. This is why some people collapse under the weight of what they were given. They were handed something divine, but their character had not been forged in the fire of obedience. They skipped the dark and ran toward the spotlight. But the spotlight is cruel to those who have not been refined. It exposes every flaw, amplifies every weakness, and magnifies every unhealed wound. In contrast, those who have obeyed in the dark carry a quiet authority. It's not loud. It's not boastful. But it's unshakable. They know who they are because they found God when no one else was looking. They know how to carry weight because they first learned how to carry silence. When purpose is finally revealed to them, it doesn't inflate their ego, it confirms what their obedience already taught them, that they were being prepared all along. The clarity is not a surprise, it is a seal on a process that has already shaped them. Sometimes you may wonder why God is silent, why He lets you walk through seasons that feel directionless, even pointless. But those seasons are not void of activity. They are rich with spiritual construction. Every unseen act of faithfulness builds a structure in you that can hold revelation. God cannot pour purpose into a heart that leaks. Obedience seals the cracks, fortifies the walls, and deepens the foundation. And when that work is done, God speaks, not because He was finally ready, but because you were. You cannot rush this. You cannot cheat this. You can only surrender to it. The world may look at you and think nothing is happening, but heaven sees everything. Every time you chose to forgive when it hurt, every time you remained faithful when no reward followed, every time you laid your will down in prayer and said, even if I don't understand, I'll still follow, those were the moments that built the inner capacity for purpose. And in heaven's time, not yours, the veil lifts. When that happens, it will not feel like a random breakthrough. It will feel like a remembering, like something you already knew in your spirit, something you carried for years, has finally taken form. The clarity will not be loud, but it will be undeniable. You will not need to convince anyone. You will simply step into what your obedience has already qualified you to handle. That is how God works. He hides what is holy until it can be honored, and He waits to reveal purpose until you have proven that you will follow Him, even when He says nothing at all. The rise of the chosen one is not an arrival, it is an assignment. It is not the end of a journey, but the beginning of responsibility. When the long-awaited moment finally comes, when the veil lifts, when the path is made clear, when others begin to see what heaven saw all along, it can feel like a personal victory. And in some sense it is, but only briefly, because the rise is not for you. It is through you. The moment you step into what you were called to do, the focus shifts. It is no longer about your waiting, your pain, your promise. It is now about what you carry and who it's meant to serve. We often mistake destiny for decoration, as though the purpose of being chosen is simply to be admired, celebrated, or elevated. But heaven never calls someone just to be seen. God calls people to be sent. And that means everything you endured, everything you were shaped by in the dark, now becomes a tool not for your fame, but for the healing, guiding, and strengthening of others. The weight of your rising isn't measured by how high you go, but by how deeply you are willing to pour yourself out once you're there. This is why so many are never truly ready for their hour. They think rising means resting, that once the moment comes, the pressure fades. But in truth, the rise introduces a new kind of pressure, the pressure of stewardship. You are no longer just responsible for your journey, you are now accountable for what your life will mean to others. This is not a burden, but a sacred trust. You have been entrusted with insight, with perspective, with authority that others will lean on, and you cannot carry that lightly. People will look to you for direction. Some will seek hope from the very strength you once fought to find in silence. Others will challenge you, question your motives, misread your heart. And through it all, you will have to remember that your position is not proof of superiority, it is a reminder of service. You were not chosen because you were better. You were chosen because you were willing to be broken and still believe. Because you were willing to kneel before you were lifted. Because you said yes to the process that others avoided. This calling will cost you. It will stretch you. It will ask for your time, your comfort, your ego. And there will be moments when you wonder why you ever longed for the rise. But those moments are only heavy, because the calling is holy. You are not simply leading with your gifts, you are leading with your wounds, your wisdom, and your worship. The scars you carry are not signs of failure, they are signs that you survived the refining. And now they will speak to others who are still in the fire. There will be days when you miss the anonymity of the process, the hidden place where only God saw you. And in those moments you must return there in your heart, in your prayer, in your posture. Because if you begin to believe that the rise was about you, you will lose the very clarity that qualified you. You must remain grounded, not in self-doubt, but in reverence. Because you do not stand where you are because of your strength. You stand because of grace. And that grace now flows through you to others. The assignment will demand consistency when you feel empty. It will ask for your voice when you want to be silent. It will draw out compassion when your flesh leans toward pride. And yet it will be the most fulfilling weight you ever carry. Because deep down you will know that your life is no longer just your own. You have become a vessel, one that was molded in the shadows, and now pours light. You may be celebrated. You may be honored. But you will not live for the celebration. You will live for the impact. You will live for the moments when someone else, lost in their own dark process, sees you and realizes they are not alone. That is the true purpose of the rise, not to prove you were chosen, but to help others discover that they are too. The hour of your rising is not your triumph. It is your turning point from one who waits to one who serves, from one who asks, "When is my time?" to one who says, "Here I am. Send me." The world may say that your rise is sudden, that you appeared out of nowhere, that what is happening to you now is the result of chance, timing, or fate. But they don't understand the quiet roads you walked to get here. They didn't see the nights you wrestled with silence, the days you labored with no applause, the prayers that went unanswered by human ears, but echoed in heaven. They will say it happened quickly. But you will know that nothing about your rising was rushed. It was the slow work of grace, unfolding exactly as it was meant to, according to a timetable written before you were born. When the moment arrives and people finally begin to notice what has long been growing in you, the temptation will be to explain yourself, to justify the journey, to prove to others that this was not luck. But you must resist that urge. You are not here to argue with disbelief. You are not here to convince skeptics. Your rise is not an announcement, it is a revelation. It is the visible unfolding of what was sown in the invisible places. What the world calls sudden is simply what they were too distracted to notice before. God often hides the ones He is preparing, not to punish them, but to protect them. Because visibility before maturity is dangerous, and you were not meant to be exposed while you were still becoming. You were not overlooked, you were covered, hidden not from purpose but for it. And now that the appointed hour has arrived, what was hidden is being uncovered. What was buried is breaking the surface. The season of obscurity is giving way to clarity, not because you forced your way into the spotlight, but because the timing was finally right. The suddenness is never about speed. It is about alignment. There is a moment when your internal reality and your external environment match for the first time. You are no longer carrying something alone, you are walking in it. And when that happens, it can look instant from the outside. But inside, you know the weight of every step it took to get here. You remember the long process, the internal battles, the surrender that no one applauded. So do not let the illusion of overnight success distort your memory. You did not arrive by shortcut. You arrived by survival, obedience, and grace. People may begin to ask, "Where did you come from?" They may act surprised by your depth, your wisdom, your authority. But do not let their surprise make you question your legitimacy. They were not there when you said yes in secret. They did not hear the quiet affirmations from heaven when your hands were empty and your heart was heavy. Their recognition does not validate you. God's process already did that. This moment is not new to your spirit, it's simply new to their eyes. There is a kind of quiet power in knowing that your rise was not manufactured. You didn't have to manipulate your way here. You didn't have to perform, impress, or conform. You were shaped in silence and released in purpose. That gives you an authority that cannot be shaken by praise or destroyed by criticism. Because you are not standing on the fragile ground of public approval, you are standing on the solid rock of divine timing. So when people say it's happening so fast, you will smile not in arrogance, but in understanding. You will remember the slow seasons, the silent years, the steady refining. You will remember how many times you almost gave up. How many times you thought maybe you had heard wrong, maybe the promise was for someone else. And you will know, nothing about this is fast. It is only now. This is the irony of divine timing. It feels slow while you're waiting, and sudden when it arrives. But heaven was never early, never late. Your rise has always been on schedule, and now that it's unfolding, you do not need to chase validation. You only need to walk in the reality that this hour has unlocked. You don't need to explain the process to those who weren't there. Your life will be the explanation. Your presence will be the proof. What they call sudden, you know, is sacred. What they see as your arrival, you understand as your release. So now, chosen one, as the hour unfolds and the light reveals what was long being forged in the dark, stand not with pride, but with purpose. This is not the beginning of ease, it is the beginning of impact. You were not raised for applause, but for assignment. The mirror has shown who you are. The silence has proven your obedience, and the suddenness is nothing more than heaven's perfect timing meeting your prepared soul. Do not shrink. Do not strive. Simply step forward. The world will wonder how it happened, but you will know God revealed the hour, and you were ready. Now walk in it.